Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shock Talk. As you can see, we have a full table here today. We have Joseph joining us again, and a very special guest. We have Ian from Wheel Every Weekend. How you doing, Ian?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. It feels like Friday, but it's only Thursday, so I don't know what's wrong. And of course, Shane. How's it going today, Shane?
It's going fantastic.
All right, we love that. So today we have a great episode planned for you. We are going to talk about shock tuning since we have the Shock Doc with us today. In case you don't know, Ian does shock tuning along with a lot of other things. So we have a real expert with us to talk about basically our 8112 products and how to tune them, when to tune them, what things to tune for what attributes are happening on the vehicle and things like that. So that's the episode, and we're going to get started. But we're going to start with 8112. So that was our first shot with the zone control, right?
Yes.
But it was non-adjustable.
It was, because we didn't have an adjustable shock. But we did have this fantastic zone control feature that basically we felt if we pre-tuned the shock the best we could, it would run all day long with all the others that were adjustable because it had the zone control.
It would be great
And
without needing to adjust it. Yeah. The zone control, it's a position-sensitive three-piston decoupled design.
Love it. That's what I always say.
Yeah, that's how I say it.
Yeah.
So, I think, Ian, you did probably the best video I've ever seen.
I know. That was
like 5 years ago.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we need to put a link in the video here for the folks to see that because it was really great. But my point is with 8112, so it was an insane product. It was probably the best product to ever
we still make
be made. It's basically vehicle specific, right? So the vehicle and the trim that we tuned on, we hit the valving the best we can. So in our world, in BILSTEIN world, that's as good as it gets.
Well, we did a lot of benchmarking.
Yeah.
We actually bought every manufacturer, and we put them on, and we did this loop through the desert, through the mountains. Yeah. Some of them almost killed me.
Yeah.
Some of them were really harsh. Some of them, let's just say, lit up the what's that? The brakes.
Oh yeah. All the lights turn on and the airbags deploy and all kinds of weird stuff. Yeah, traction control.
Traction control. Driving down the road. Yeah. We'd leave from here, go out through Ramona, go out to the mountains, and go. There was like a really, really screwed up like mountain road that we would hit, and I almost like careened into some vehicles going around just on the road.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we tried the main three competitors that we thought at the time. So we put a lot of time into it.
I think I've tested 14 different shocks blind on the Tacoma platform at this point.
Just 8112 or some DSAs?
We haven't done the DSA yet. Okay. However, that one is coming. The problem with doing an adjustable shock is that you can't really do it blind.
Right.
In a way that's fair.
Right.
So it really, you kind of have to be able to see it and adjust it. I could test them blind with how they're set up, and another company's done that test, and the 8112 one, because they tried to replicate ours, which was really interesting. I went and talked to them about it. But yeah, it's crazy to see the variance in tuning on the same vehicle with like what is essentially should be the same product. And the ride quality is just insanely different throughout all of them. And you'd think that like just as like a customer, you'd think that everyone's kind of arriving at the same point, and it's just actually not the case, which is bizarre for me to see like blind. I'm not sure I would have actually believed it unless I did all those blind tests.
That sounds crazy.
It does. It really does. But I mean, we test on prototypes, obviously, and they're getting revalved and changed all the time. But the end product, I mean, you saw our BTC this morning, that gets put on a dyno and checked to make sure it matches the drawing. So it's really weird that there would be any evidence of any difference. But
I think it probably comes back to your shock tuning. Like each company's got their shock tuner, the way they do it. And they
what feels
have
good
their
to
own
them.
Tastes, right? Not everybody's the same.
Yeah.
I have some suspicions that maybe some of them aren't necessarily tuned to. I'm wondering if there's just like some computer algorithm stuff going on.
Probably is.
It's like a big pain in the butt to bring these things in and tune them all, especially
I know,
and especially do the ride height. Yeah. Like with the Tacoma, we brought in
every ride height. Yeah.
we brought in every cab and motor so we can tell you what lift height you were going to be at with what cab and motor. And then we're also doing the lean correction too with the Toyotas. And we brought everything in.
Yeah.
Like, who does that?
Yeah.
Now, there's a chart of like 10 different boxes on the install instructions that says like, oh, 4x4, 5-foot cab.
Yeah.
We'll do, or 5-foot bed, we'll do this much lift height. And then it's like, oh, the other bed configuration or the other motor configuration.
Right. Access
the other motor with the other bed.
Forward door.
Yeah. But then a lot of what I do is people with additional weight.
And that's what I was getting to.
Customized.
So now you've got the customer who has the 8112s, which we've determined are pretty darn good out of the box, but now they modified the vehicle.
Yeah.
Right. It's got a camper, it's got a bumper and winch up front, and now we need the shock dock tuning. So how do you approach a project like that? I mean, where do you start, right? When you're tuning an 8112, you take it out for a test drive and you come back, and then what's the process from there?
So a lot of what I'm doing is people with additional weight up front. So there's like the general rule of thumb for that platform where 80 to 140 pounds of additional weight is 650 pound springs, and essentially anything above that, you have to go to 700s.
Right.
And part of that isn't necessarily ride quality, but it's also you run into a block height issue.
Right.
Because we're constrained by the spring length, which is why like the Tundra platform, actually, the 8112 on the Tundra is the only 2.5-inch coilover on the market outside of the 6112 that doesn't essentially limit your up travel because the springs are in block height.
Right.
So I've tested another 5 of them, and they're all using 14 or 16-inch, 650 pound per inch springs. And with the amount of preload you need to achieve ride height,
Getting close to block.
you're limiting. I think the last one I did was limiting 2 inches of up travel.
Right.
Which is a huge bummer because a Tundra can do like over 10 inches of travel in the front with just a coilover. It's really good, actually. So that's frustrating to see. And then some companies will try and fix that by going to 3.75 ID springs, which then the spring, the tie rod goes into the spring.
Right. If you don't clock it.
Yeah. It's really scary. I don't know how more people haven't snapped their steering off with that. So then the BILSTEIN products have it's like a 3.3-inch ID spring, which fixes that issue of block height. But a lot of what I'm doing is it's additional weight. And then most of what I'm doing is I'm trying to dial in the rebound control, because even going from a 600 pound per inch spring to a 700 pound per inch spring, the front end can see it's a little over 1,000 pounds of additional force when it's fully bottomed out.
Wow.
So it's pretty significant, actually. And if your rebound control isn't designed to meter that correctly, which the base valving is phenomenal. Whoever does the valving is obviously really cares about it, which is one thing I really appreciate. But you put an extra 1,000 pounds of spring force that the shocks see over the front, and it's not correct for it.
Yeah, it needs to be adjusted for safety and also for the additional spring rate that you're adding in there. So weight.
It's a complete different application.
Yeah. So you start with spring rate, right? So now you've switched from the 650s to the 750s in this application. And then what's the process from there? Now we got to work with, you said rebound. You're definitely adjusting that. But how do you determine how much to adjust? And do you just do it by feel? Do you drive? Or
yeah, a lot of it is by feel.
Yep.
And there's some other companies I've worked with that rely completely on dynos, which I think is great for qualifying an existing valving spec. But
matching a curve or something like that.
The thing I always say is dynos don't buy shocks.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'd prefer that the people think that it rides nice. And also, it's also partially based on how the customer is going to use it. So with a little bit more probing, I can find out someone's like, I don't want to run a sway bar at all. I'm like, all right, well, I got to...
Totally off-road,
Yeah, I got to... Well, or they don't want to run a sway bar, but they're mainly on-road. And so then I'm pulling a little bit of rebound bleed out, and maybe we're increasing the rebound shim size or stuff like that. So you can really tailor it to their specific driving or what they're doing. But I very rarely will revalve an 8112 with a stock spring rate for the most part, unless someone has a use case that's outside of standard. Because the stock valving is actually quite good.
Right.
And I've been really happy with it. Like I think my Tundra has stock valving in it right now. I haven't adjusted it yet.
We've seen that in tons of online content going way faster than it should over terrain that it probably couldn't drive over.
That was just because
of the camper shell.
Yes, we remember the camper shell that what did we call that?
I have a best one now.
The best piece of suspension ever. Yeah.
Can you go faster with the new camper shell?
I don't know. It's aluminum, so it doesn't weigh. The old one was aluminum. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can.
I don't know.
Debate.
I'm sure it's the fastest
It's a hot
suspension upgrade you can do is put a camper shell on.
Yeah, I did put air bumps on the back too, but I run them with no pressure in them. I just don't tell anybody that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it bucks pretty good.
Yeah. Just for looks, right?
Not really needed, huh?
Yeah.
No. I just, I don't know. I did need it at one point, and then I went up a spring pack in the rear, which is another big thing is people will be running, say they get like Devers stage 2s or something for 400 to 600 pounds of additional weight.
Static weight load.
Yeah, then I'll change the valving for that as well. And also Devers behave significantly different from the stock springs.
Yes.
And leaf
Big
springs,
spring pack versus 3, which is in the stock. Yeah.
and leaf springs are a bit lazy inherently, and they do bind, which is actually the best part about them, is that they provide, you get so much value out of a leaf spring. Like it locates the axle, it holds the thing up, it's doing all the jobs of everything, but it's not going to do any of them perfectly,
Right.
I would say. And it's also reducing body roll too, because it exists in bind, because it doesn't want to twist sideways.
Yep.
Do you work with customers on leaf spring setups directly?
Yeah.
So you order custom leaf packs or
Yeah, absolutely.
and customize them?
It's all part of the
To me,
tuning
that's
process.
a big,
yeah.
probably a big part of the adding the
That
weight.
people overlook for sure. You know, they just like, can I put a shock on here that's going to hold up the weight? Well, first of all, the shocks don't hold up the weight, so you need to start with the spring. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's sometimes it's hard to educate customers on that too. That like, especially if you have a varying load, like the ideal setup would be a varying spring rate and varying shock valve.
Right, right.
That matches it both.
You can only get that with an airbag right now. So
You can only get that with a luxury SUV.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
They figured that out with the air suspension.
there are some new like Ram 3500s and stuff that have the air leveling assist or stuff. So that's kind of interesting. Airbags do tend to jounce pretty good though.
Yeah.
They behave significantly different than just like torsional
It doesn't
steel.
like being compressed extensively. It causes
They're not
problems.
that great for like hardcore off-road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would always worry about the puncture side of things as well. Too.
Yeah, although I don't know, semi trucks have airbags, and
True.
I don't see
Some military vehicles as well
Yep.
use air to get in and out of choppers. They squat them down and all
They
that.
also
kind
have
of stuff.
suspension seats and suspension.
Yeah. All that stuff that we don't have access to.
Yeah, you're getting multiple layers of it. But yeah, I think ideally you would have both, but it's not feasible in a lot of applications. Like,
Right.
you're not going to put an airbag in the back of a Tacoma. Like, why?
No.
Yeah.
For what reason? There's no point. So that's why I think like having the adjusters is actually phenomenal for that, because you can dial in your compression control quite a bit with
Right.
that, which helps significantly. You're not going to be adjusting rebound, but the only way you're going to do a rebound adjustment is with a hollow shaft, as far as I can figure out, which is
How we do it in the UTV shock.
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, a lot of it with carrying a load with the DSA, like a lot of times you'll over compress and then it'll rebound up. So if you can control the compression so it doesn't go down that deep,
Yep.
then you don't need as much rebound.
Before we go to knobs, I wanted to finish up on the non-adjustable one. So with that tuning process, you go through it, you drive it, and you hand it back to the customer, go for a final ride, and be aware that you're taking these apart in between each setting change, right? So back to the bench if they don't like it, retune it, back to the customer, or you riding it before they ride it. But in the end, it's basically a collaboration between you and the customer. This is what I think is going to be best for you.
And it is more frustrating on IFS vehicles. Like I do a lot of buggy and Ultra 4 stuff, which is really easy to do in the desert. I have an engine crane, and we just pick it up and pull the coilover out. Whereas like the IFS setups are a bit more annoying to remove.
Got a lot of work to get it in.
There's a lot of stuff going on. So usually I'm doing even more. I'm putting the vehicle on a trailer. We're going to OCTOLs. We're running it. I'm taking slow-mo footage of everything, which then I bring back and I blow up, and I will watch to qualify whatever I'm doing. Because I find that like even if I look at, if I'm not shooting at a like really high frame rate and I'm able to slow it down, even me being in the vehicle, sometimes like too much compression or too little compression can feel almost the same, because you're transmitting force into the chassis in a similar way. You just don't know if like, are you not absorbing enough force and then all the kinetic energy is transferred into the chassis, or is the tire just shooting up and blowing through travel and slamming in and going into it? Or is it that it's not moving enough and blowing into it?
Can't see that from the driver's seat.
It's really hard to feel from inside, I find. I've gone to pretty much exclusively filming from the outside and then using that. And typically towards the end, I'll ride in it and just make sure there's not something really weird.
Check everything.
A lot of the times that people have ride quality complaints, it's 90% of it is the same thing, and it's like a low velocity input, and they say that it's like harsh and bouncy, and it's always the ball joint every single time.
Yeah, you have to eliminate all the other parts on the car that could cause a feel like that as well when you're shot. I mean, if you get in the truck and everything's worn out and you start with the shocks and springs, you could lead yourself down a bad path there.
Yeah. So I don't know how many customers I've had who are like, these are bouncy. I'm like, your upper control arm.
1 inch of play in your upper control arm.
Yeah. And it's just a failure of something that's locating the tire in its plane of travel, usually.
Now, in your case, would you normally just fix that for them and then go into the shock tuning? So you offer all that advice and get it fixed up for them? And
and I have all the uniballs and all the like Icon Delta joint replacements and all those other products and the bushings and
so
stuff.
If they're bringing that truck in and that's the problem, you can pretty much fix that on the spot as well.
Yeah, because it is a ride quality and handling issue, and I want to make sure that we're starting from a base point that makes sense.
A solid vehicle, something that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, I don't want to tune a shock for something that's incorrect.
Exactly.
And that's a huge issue that you can run into is you can try and dial in some like there's like some weird low speed jitteriness or, I mean, I've had some where there's like an inch of play in the upper control arm, literally.
Or the axle bearings are worn out or
something
even
like
dumb
that.
Stuff like brakes, warped rotors and things like that can put weird feedback into the shocks. You just touch the brakes and it sets off this whole weird thing happening with the chassis. So that's so important that, being an A-level tuner to really figure out what you're working on, what on the vehicle is in good shape, get that all fixed up, then work on the tuning, take it step by step, starting with spring rate, ride height, all that kind of stuff, then go through the final details. That's a hard job. There's not too many people out there that go through that much work to tune a vehicle, especially with the camera work and all that kind of stuff and analyzing it. And I mean, that's a process.
When you're doing the camera work, is this like a long travel kit or is this anything like an 8112 type setup?
It's usually on a buggy.
Okay.
A lot of what I do is like solid axle go fast stuff. That's kind of my like particular hyper fixation for some reason.
Yeah.
That was the truck that started you, right?
It is. Yeah. It is. Yeah. Actually, I mean, I used to think that I just wouldn't be able to off-road at all. And then I got a set of custom tuned 8125s on it. And I was like, I can actually do this.
There's some great video of that truck out there too. That was insane.
Yeah, that one is dumb. It's still around. The guy is daily driving it in Colorado and stuff. So it's still rocking. It's like more of a buggy now, like full hydro and stuff, which is what it should always been. But
that's crazy how good you can get a solid axle to work.
Yeah, especially with ACVs on it too.
Yeah.
Because you can get a lot of initial shaft speed, which they really struggle with, and especially changes of directions. Because with solid axles, you're trying to take 1,000 pounds and bring it up. You have to completely stop it,
and turn
then
it around.
shoot back out fast enough that you're hitting the next whoop with it.
Yeah.
Which is like, I don't know. I haven't found a good way to do that doesn't involve kind of ruining some other like ride quality aspects, which is kind of frustrating. I think last time you mentioned I should try upside down flutters, which I have been doing.
Oh, really?
With like limited success. Sometimes better than others. I think I need to do a bunch more work on that. But yeah, I don't know. The solid axle stuff is just, it's pretty satisfying to me.
It has to be an upside down flutter into like a multiple of it, right?
When you see
trying to go back into my memory brain.
Set up right, you had to working right. Like we just got some video of these rock bouncer things. What was that thing that Owen posted? What was that called, Garrett?
Rock bouncing.
Rock bouncers? Yeah. It's okay. I mean, we're all group here.
Yeah.
Chime in. But these things are insane. Solid axle trucks with these just weird running over trees and roots and rocks the size of VWs. And I was watching that suspension work. It is just amazing to see a solid axle do that kind of stuff. And you do that more for the desert, right? A little bit more speed involved.
Yeah. It's very high speed.
I remember the upside down flutter, you can't just have one shim. You need two shims. One that's the cover and one a little bit narrower.
Yeah.
And then the flutter. Or everything goes crazy.
Jittery. Yeah, I've also tried using like I guess the SAE equivalent of like a 0.50 mil face shim on it too as a flutter. But then the crack force is really high on it.
But that's in the ACV?
You need a way to get
on the piston.
Okay.
You need a way to get the axle down.
Yeah, that doesn't involve just colossal bleed holes, which is what I typically do, which then it suffers in cornering and you have kind of less control. And also you're typically dealing with spring rates on a solid axle application. The shock is seeing like the combined rate of the springs will be 80 to 90 pounds per inch. So the amount of spring force that you're actually getting out of that to re-accelerate 1,000 pounds is fairly minimal. Even if you're striking into a 250, it's still like with IFS, you're dealing with 650, 700 pound per inch, and you have significantly less weight that you're trying to move around generally. So it's so much easier to re-accelerate it without having to rely on valving characteristics that degrade your ride quality. But I still think it's very fun and it's a good time. I don't know. There's something about being in a solid axle truck and waiting for all the long travel trucks to catch up to you.
Yeah, exactly.
It just makes me laugh.
Flew him off the desert trail there.
It's just a good time. I don't know. There's just something about it. I'm probably just a dinosaur.
Well, I just love watching them work. Like I said, those videos were just amazing of watching the solid axle truck work through the whoops and things like that.
I have a really hard time wheeling anything IFS. Like I don't like it.
Yeah.
It makes me feel
pick
weird.
up the wheels a lot for sure. Yeah.
It's not that. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, the thing with solid axle is that it's easier to make it more robust. You can make IFS as strong as solid axle, but the price point that you're reaching is
and the gains,
crazy high.
Aren't as big as you would gain with solid axle.
And what's crazy is like the big class at King of the Hammers this year, the golf cart won it again, but directly behind him was a solid axle car that broke, and like right next to him was an IFS car that I think also broke.
Yeah.
So, and they were kind of neck and neck for a while. So I was like, this doesn't actually help me decide what to do.
Yeah, you're still stuck on the shop track.
I'm
Which one are we going to build?
Okay, cool. So the golf cart, the solid axle, and the IFS are all like together at one point.
Yeah, all within a minute of each other on the track.
Until 10 miles before the end. So
that wasn't very the ones that broke are probably a good indication that you need to build a stronger, bigger, beefier version of it.
Yeah. One of them was crazy. He broke his like 10-inch front diff, which is like...
That's impossible.
I don't know.
Yeah. Like, that must have just drove it into a giant rock and just crushed it or something.
Yeah, or like, I don't know, setup issue or something.
An IFS has to be sitting mid-travel just like a solid axle. And that's how it works, and you just can't make that out of a production. They don't make production vehicles.
No, it just
not sitting in the middle.
Like Ian said, it just costs so much money, to do that.
You need 20 inches of wheel travel, and you need to be sitting right in the middle.
Not cost effective.
And then you can't have a sway bar. Yeah, obviously, or some kind of like rickety, like motorsport sway bar, or something like that. But solid axles are great. I mean, I can't believe how fast like the 4800s and not 48, but 4500s and
I don't know.
45 is it's Legends and
45 is dual shocks. It's coilover bypass, and for some reason the 4800s are typically faster, which doesn't make sense because they're single shock per corner.
Yeah. It's because they don't have a steering linkage.
That's probably it. Yeah. That's probably it, because then you don't have to have panhard in the front.
But anyways, those things go pretty damn fast. Out of King of the Hammers, like seeing them go across the desert.
It is really weird to see them out in the desert doing that.
They're not screwing around.
No, they're on it.
They're very competitive. Our good friend Amber races for Bomber Fab, and I was watching her race the whole time, and I was like, hitting like 80, 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's
just some of the desert sections.
So crazy that they're able to go that fast and still do really well in the rocks as well.
Yeah, and like last year they raced the car 4800 at 1, and then they raced it 4400 the next day.
Yeah,
the same exact car. Yeah. So it's like it's obviously
it lived.
A robust product.
Yeah,
they definitely know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's really neat.
So from the standard 8112 without knobs, right? So we've covered that, your process going through that, and basically you're taking a Bilstein product that was designed for vehicle specific use and adapting it for a vehicle that's been modified.
Actually, I had a question on that.
Sure.
So when we were talking about like revalving stuff for like additional weight, for example, obviously you're going to retune the main piston, but how often are you actually revalving JCO or the dual stage there?
If it's an adjustable JCO, never.
Yeah,
I wouldn't touch it. There's so much adjustment in the JCO adjuster with the knob. So that's the 2-stage bottom out that it's like a telescoping hydraulic piston that goes in. It has a
in
first
here.
stage where the center part goes in, and then the second stage where it's
kind of see it here
together
on camera, but it's actually this little assembly right here, and there's the knob that adjusts it.
And the forces go up so high in the second stage that I was thinking you probably don't need to touch it that often, right?
Yeah, it's a crazy ramp. I remember I saw one dyno graph of it, and it was like 5,000 newtons or something.
It's insane, yeah. At the first, there's 2 stages, stage 1, stage 2, and it's just insane. How about a non-adjustable one? Would you ever get inside JCO?
Yeah, I'll touch the JCO sometimes. Typically what it is let's say I have a customer who has a winch and a bumper, and they have a ton of front end weight, but they want to run 650s because they're worried that 700s will ride rough. And so at that point, you can get a little bit more bottom out control if you adjust the JCO. But you have to keep in mind that the JCO is still velocity sensitive because it has valving and it has a bleed shim and stuff. So it's not like at low speeds it's limiting travel, which I know is something another brand would say about it. And now they have a similar version of it, which is hilarious. But all that aside, it's a piston. It's velocity sensitive too. So it's not like every time you hit it, it's producing the same amount of force.
No.
It's not like a hydraulic bump.
No,
it's where you have to hit
based
it hard.
on the rod speed input. Absolutely, yeah.
At low speeds, it will travel through there.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, you can cycle it freely by hand.
Yeah, we do this all the time. I don't want to do it right now because I'm feeling a little weak today.
Yeah.
We can actually take this to a show and cycle that for them.
Yeah, which is like, whereas with an air bump product, it is...
Now that ramps up.
It does ramp up quite a bit, and I tune them in like 4 different ways mostly, but an air bump has a colossal shaft. It's like 1 1/8 or 1 1/4 or whatever that is in metric, sorry. 24 mil, I don't know. And so you are displacing the nitrogen charge with that shaft, and that's producing part of the amount of force. So even though air bumps also have valving in them too, they're an emulsion shock, there's still going to be a certain amount of force it takes to collapse it. So if you have an air bump that's fully charged, or even not fully charged with no air in it,
still going to be rod
0
force.
psi.
Yep.
It's almost impossible to compress it still, even at 0 psi, because you're still compressing that chamber. It's partially that volume. So I'll tune air bumps, changing the valving, the oil volume, the nitrogen charge, and the actual stroke length too.
Right, and this you would just change a few shims. Right, you would take that apart, tune the JCO piston. And make it firmer or softer for the customer without the knob.
But it's dissipating force in a way that I feel like is fundamentally different, because like a shock is turning kinetic energy and it's dissipating it by turning it into heat via friction, as far as I understand.
Right.
Which is what's happening inside of the JCO assembly. But in an air bump itself, you also have that nitrogen pressure that's ramped up, and it does want to shoot itself back out. So you're required to have that rebound valving. And if the rebound valving isn't dialed in or correct, or your wear band has moved off a little bit, and it's allowing some bleed around the piston or something like that, it can try and shoot things out a little bit. And jounce a tiny bit.
Yeah.
So it does
Kick
have
the
some
axle
advantages.
back down really hard. Yeah.
Which might be good in a solid axle application for some things.
Yeah.
We are
Get it
struggling.
moving in the right direction. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe I'll do pop-off rebound valving on an air bump and try that.
Yeah.
See if see how long that takes me to get hurt. Driving around like
exactly.
that.
Till something comes apart, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. And the amount of force that some of these shocks are seeing, especially at motion ratios, is crazy. Like I took an air bump apart last week where actually it's another brand, but the wiper cap itself broke, and the entire like wiper cap and seal head assembly was able to shove itself into the air bump. It bottomed out so hard.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I remember when it happened too, vividly.
You remember the bump that caused it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in my memory for sure. I know
It's
exactly
there.
when. Yeah, it's ingrained in my memory. It was very scary. So yeah, the amount of force that some of these items are seeing is just colossal.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So a few years back, Shane decided to put knobs on these things, right? So now...
Well, I mean, we all wanted to have the adjusters.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
The
BILSTEIN
market demanded it.
and BILSTEIN decided to put knobs on it, and I think it was a good thing. But there's still tuning available for customers. I mean, we pack them in a box at the setting that engineering says they're going to perform the best. And I'm sure that for most people without modded vehicles, that's going to be a good place to start. Now, as the shock tuner, the shock doc, people come to you with these adjustable ones, and they're confused by the adjustments or not quite understanding what needs to be done to make the vehicle ride right. So with an adjustable one, if your spring rate's good, from a customer standpoint, wanting to do this, where would they start? Like, what characteristic would they come to you with and say, okay, how do I tune this out, and how would you do it?
Well, I want to start out by saying, I'm not just saying this because I'm on the podcast, but whoever does the valving in these is like, they're the best.
That's Dennis, and we can't live without him. So.
Yeah, he's great. Just phenomenal. The base valving is really good, especially for the off-road ride quality that you can get out of like the 60 millimeter digressive high flow piston is really phenomenal for what it is. And I also really like that when you buy this product, you're going to actually get, it's like lasered on all of them. This is the JCO adjustment. It does 10 clicks, and that 10 clicks is in one rotation.
Right.
And that way, if it ever does lose detent feel, which I haven't seen on this particular product, but let's give it 10 years down the road, it's completely possible. You still know that it's one turn of adjustment, and you're not going to sit there trying to continue to turn it.
Break the knob off trying to turn it,
Yeah, which I have also seen. I do a lot of repairs on like the adjustable knobs or pulling them apart to grease them or stuff. None on these so far, though. And I know that also these include a tool to adjust them, too. Mm-hmm. So if they ever do reach that point, it's literally a non-issue, which is great. But specifically with the JCO adjustment, it's your bottom out zone. So I would probably want to adjust that last, if I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. Typically what I'll do is I'll put a zip tie around the shock shaft for that.
Travel indicator.
Yeah, as a travel indicator. And with the hopes that it doesn't bottom out hard enough that it sends zip tie into the seal head assembly, which also does happen. And every time I apologize and I put new seals in it, it's just going to happen. I don't know a way around it. The O-rings don't seem to work. They just don't hold on tight enough.
No, they just gone.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to do about that. But the JCO, I would probably tend to adjust last. And that's like quite an extreme hit where you're fully bottoming out. So by the time you've adjusted the other knobs and you're pretty comfortable going over a section at a really high rate of speed and you're going about 90% as fast as you feel comfortable going, I never want someone going 100% flat out unless we're tuning a race car.
Exactly.
In which case we're doing 110% as fast as you're comfortable going at all times.
Different start and stop level there.
Yeah. It's, And it is really cool when I'm tuning to see people start. Like the other day I tuned a Jeep with 8125s on it. And originally he said I was only going to rock crawl with it. And so I put a pretty firm base valving in it. And I got him from 20 to 60 to 70 miles an hour over a section. It's really cool to see people's confidence increase. But like when you're tuning at a certain point, you just have to hit the gas. Like it's just the gas.
Let's
pedal.
figure out
That's
what it's going to do.
Yeah, we have to see it. It's going to be a little scary and the goal is to be controlled, but we have to see it.
Right.
And so with the dual speed compression adjusters, these do such a wide range that typically there are some products where I will adjust a dual speed style compression adjuster fully open and then go back to fully closed and run it like that. With this one, we're doing like 2 or 3 clicks at a time.
Right.
Because the range of adjustment is so high overall, which is like a good and a bad thing. It's cool that we're giving customers that much ability to change their ride quality, but we're also allowing them to ruin their ride quality.
Yeah, they can create problems. And that's the point I was getting to is, as a shock tuner, you've realized that with this much power to adjust the ride that people can screw it up. And that's why we put it in the box the way we do, it's set the way we do. But we still need Ian to guide people through adjusting it, kind of teach them the ropes on, what are you actually doing and what are you trying to cure?
Yeah, right? And it's tricky too because like if you're talking about low and high speed, we're not talking about how fast you're driving.
No, it's rod speed.
Exactly.
How fast the suspension is.
Yeah.
And the adjuster is only working on oil that's displaced by the shaft.
Right.
So there's a lot of value in having an adjuster, even if you never adjust it, because you're reducing cavitation. Like the original version was the anti-cavitation valve, literally. I was just working on one of those yesterday. Which is just, it's an adjuster with no adjustment.
Exactly.
I had those on my original truck. They're great.
It's this minus the knobs and a cooling fins. Yeah.
Yes, and they work great. But yeah, it's only metering off the oil that's displaced by the shaft, so you can get more shaft velocity out of it without blowing through valving necessarily. Absolutely. So specifically if you're trying to tune like washboard type stuff, I think that having adjusters is great, even if you never touch them, because it allows a washboard is like a really high velocity but super low overall movement thing, which is like
1 inch of piston rod travel.
Yeah, like max, and a lot of it ends up being taken up by bushings and tires and like ultimately I really do believe your sidewall and your tire pressure is going to have more of an overall effect as long as your shocks are close.
Right.
I used to say that tires are the only thing that control washboard, and after I've done all the blind shock testing, I no longer say that. There are some absolutely insane valving setups. I call it cinder block mode, but where you just, I don't know. It
feels like you got square wheels.
Yeah, it just doesn't move. I don't know. I guess, who knows? Oh, I'm hitting the cactus.
Yeah.
But what was I saying?
It's not real, don't worry.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think like for washboard or inputs like that, it's great. However, with a low speed adjuster, I just took one apart yesterday. I'm assuming you are just occluding an orifice with it. Is that correct?
It's preload.
Oh, the gold?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The low speed?
Yeah.
I think it's a bleed around.
Okay.
Or it is a bleed around.
Okay. So yeah, and it's insane how much adjustment it will do too. Like we could go out and turn all the adjusters all the way in on my Tundra, and we could drive it over a speed bump, and the front end will hop over it. It doesn't go up, which is awesome because if you have a customer who has that additional weight, like on the Tundra platform, there is no option for a heavier rate spring.
Right.
It will get into coil bind. There's not even an option for a standard rate spring from other shocks using a 3.0 ID spring.
Yeah.
It's that bad. Yeah. It's like, I think it's a 16-inch 650 spring.
That's the second gen or?
Second gen, yeah. And the last setup I put on was limiting 2 inches of up travel. And I was squatted in the front.
So you really need to be careful on what you put in front of your Tundra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Mm-hmm. It's really common to the point where I've tried to not tune second gen Tundras as much because like the biggest thing that I'll tell people is like, well, we're limiting 20% of your travel and your spring rate is going infinite. Yeah. And you're not bottoming it out. The springs are physically touching.
Yeah, it's on block. It's it's literally
so if you're setting if your spring rate goes from 650 pounds per inch to infinity per inch, it's going to create a jarring ride quality.
It's going to break the control arm.
And then I think that they don't always believe me too. So I'm trying not to.
They don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't at all.
It's tough.
So they're like, well, why is it when I bottom out, it's so rough? Like, well,
because you just compressed a spring to a solid tube of steel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just got over trying to explain.
They don't believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I'm at a show and it's usually a guy with a Cherokee and they're like, my Cherokee rides rough. Okay.
Yes.
Let me go look at it. Mm-hmm. And it's always
this much room between the coil wraps.
And it's always, he's got like, 10 inches of up travel between the axle and the bump, but he's got 2 inches of up travel on his shock.
Or spring.
Because he has a custom shock mount laid over.
Yeah.
Always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why is it always that guy?
Well, that's what
Cherokees.
That's what keeps Ian in business.
And then I explain this, and it's
with people
like
on this stuff.
XJ owners.
You explain it. You're talking to the person, and they're just like
lost. Just glaze over.
No idea. The problem is there's so many different parts that you have to explain to it, and it does require like a serious want to learn about this stuff.
Yeah, it does.
And it's easier for a shop to just say like, buy this from us and it'll be better than it is to say like, we have to fix every part of this.
Yep.
Because all of it's incorrect.
Or that is so true. Recipe like on a forum that's not well thought out.
Yeah. The forums, man. There's some crazy stuff on there, especially about 8112s. I had one guy say that he thought going from 5100s to an 8100 smooth body in the rear is a bigger performance jump than going from 5100s to zone control in the front. It's like, that's an interesting thing to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a 5-zone versus a smooth body.
Yeah, there is some like conflicting things being said, but
so back to this Tundra, 700 pounds, you pretty much probably shouldn't sounds like you shouldn't put a big heavy bumper on your Tundra.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because they have so much motion ratio. If you pull the control arms off, I've had the stock Tundra control arms next to long travel Tacoma control arms, and they're the same pretty much.
Uppers or lowers?
Lowers.
Yeah, okay.
it's pretty much the same lengths. And so you're dealing with so much motion ratio and so much front end weight that they really suffer with spring rate, which is like, I go way too deep into the Tundras now because I'm like, they're actually kind of bad trucks overall. They're not actually good at anything. Like, I use it for towing. Very scary to tow with.
Yeah.
Does not have enough brakes.
They're so great.
They're
so great.
Yeah.
Every time you put the key in, it starts.
Yeah.
And
how many thousands of miles do you have on it?
it's like almost 200,000. It's probably been in the air 500 times.
How long have you owned it?
I don't know, like 6 or 7 years. And
I'm
it's
surprised.
never had an issue.
I'm surprised you haven't
love
killed
it.
it yet.
No, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would drive it across country right now.
Yep.
It still has heated leather seats and like 2-stage climate. I have a backup camera too, which I love, but it looks like Minecraft. It's like, because it's the like original Toyota
Broken
technology.
screen.
Yeah, it's like 8-bit. It's like you're playing the original Mario. Yeah. So you have like
Camera's not so great, and it's
No.
probably covered in dirt half the time.
yeah, I mean, you have like a vague idea of where the trailer is with it, and that's really all I need. So it is phenomenal though, but it's pretty much Minecraft back there.
I think you just convinced me.
There's-
I'm like on the fence to buy one of those. I haven't for
You
years.
should get
The
one before I
second
make
gen?
them cost too
Second
much.
gen.
Yeah.
Second gen,
So
yeah.
great.
They're really, I really do actually love ours. I have 37s on it now, which I shouldn't have done. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 35s are fine.
Yeah, I
well,
think, what did you spend a couple weeks in the shop with a hammer pounding the body and everything?
no,
out of the way?
I have like a cat mount replacement. I've cut a bunch of stuff out, and
Yeah.
then I just partially gave up.
Yeah.
And I did the thing I tell customers not to do, and I just moved the lower control arms as far forward as possible because I spent like a day on it, and then
Did you do that with the lower alignment cams? Or
Yeah. But then I aligned it off the uppers.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I have high adjustable uppers, so it's kind of fine.
Are you going to go back to 35s?
Well, I just put Nittos on, and apparently they last like 60,000 miles. So
no.
It's going to be a while.
I imagine I have to blow the truck up before the Nittos are done. It just defies all logic that it.
Well, let's go do
continues to
another
run.
shock shootout. We'll see if we can
I'm
blow it up
happy
for
to,
you.
yeah.
Well, Junior and I had a fantasy that we were going to find a guy with a Raptor, and we wanted to go. We wanted to get you.
Why were you looking at Garrett when you said that?
Well, because we convinced him. We're like, if you want to go really fast and you don't want to spend the Raptor money, you can buy a second gen Tundra, put an 8112 setup on the front, a bypass on the back, and a good spring pack, and 35s.
Yeah.
On Rock Warrior wheels, of course.
Yeah.
If you can find them.
Yeah.
But and you can run. I dare to say you're going to run faster than that stock Raptor.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I
And
heard
I
there
wanna
was a
see it.
video of this, but it automatically deleted itself off your camera for some reason.
I'm so annoyed about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should redo that though.
Yeah.
'Cause it was pretty good. I do have towing springs now, but even with them, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'll still do
You
it.
still have the Devers on the back, right?
Yeah, but they're the overland spec ones. So they're for like 500 pounds of additional load. Because I do also tow at capacity,
Yeah.
and that's all I'll say about it.
Yeah.
A couple pounds under capacity, possibly.
Yeah. Well, and then there's the visits to BILSTEIN to pick up your orders, which probably overloads the back of the truck too.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a couple 100 pounds of shocks in it after this. So
Probably runs better at BILSTEIN with a couple 100 pounds of
it does.
Yeah.
8112 in the
Trucks-
back, right?
Put some water bags back there or something.
Trucks really do struggle with weight distribution just by nature because the bed is empty and you have the people and all the stuff is in the front. And so that's another thing that I try and dial in a lot, which is a lot of them will have like jacking or bucking where the rear end, you hit something and it just lifts it, which is also another thing like I was talking about before where it's hard to tell if it's too little compression or too much compression.
That the cameras help with, yeah.
Yeah, and it can be either. And the only thing I've found that really helps with it is like getting a spare tire and putting it behind the axle. And that's specifically
Where the factory put it.
yeah, essentially, yeah. It's just going back to factory spec.
Yeah.
And specifically, I find that helps a lot with jacking, which is like, say, like a lot of my videos, I'm hitting a whip section straight on, but that's like 1% of what I'm tuning for. And a lot of it is you're hitting like, I'll simulate hitting like a cross stitch or something by hitting a whip section at an angle.
Right.
And if the weight distribution isn't correct, the rear end will both buck and it will try and force the rear of the truck sideways as well, which is
flips
really
trucks. Yeah.
It's really the most dangerous thing, I think.
And that's called jacking?
I call that jacking. I don't know.
Going up and sideways?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's when you
like
hit
that.
the whoops at a slight angle, right? Or if you were driving straight and it was a crosswash that you ran over, it kicks the back of the truck around and it's really hard to come back from that.
Yeah. And in solid axle applications, it's also controlled by anti-squat too. So like really high anti-squat values or
That's always tough.
or like it, depending on your roll center as well. So I think like depending on your roll center, it's going to impact the chassis in a different way, and it'll tend to jack less actually.
In case you don't know, he also designs suspensions. So he has a big brain and lots of software that completely designs his own suspension systems.
So how do you tune to get rid of this jacking on this Tundra?
Typically, like specifically in my application, it was partially because I am running towing springs, but I'm not fully loaded when I'm in the desert very often. And so having the adjustability of the bypass tubes is really helpful, because then, like in theory, if you go up in spring rate, but you have the same load out, you can take some compression valving out because you have the higher spring rate. So it's resisting the tire moving up more. But then if you're metering less of that spring rate on the way up, you have to meter more of it on the way down.
Right.
So I will pull some compression out and add some rebound in. That's awesome. I wish I could say like, oh, do 4 clicks of this or 5 of that. But anything I say is going to be incorrect for your specific application.
Absolutely. So, each vehicle is a little bit different, how much weight they have in the back, even how much gas they have in it at any given time.
Or tube layouts too. If you have a different tube layout on it, like let's say that you can have 2 vehicles, same exact ride height, 2 different brand bypasses. Maybe one will have the compression tube is active for 2 inches above ride height, one it's active for 4 inches above ride height. So you're going to need completely different adjustments
different settings.
About them.
Absolutely.
Or one will have less valving in the main piston or more valving in the main piston. So that is another thing I do, is I typically just go up a shim size or 2 on both ends of the piston for the bypasses to give them a really firm like bottom out and top out zone. And I find that a lot of them have a ton of bleed in them, and so I'll reduce the overall amount of bleed in them as long as they're not having that issue reaccelerating the weight. Like I was talking about that the solid axles have. And leaf springs are lazy and they don't want to reaccelerate it, especially spring over versus spring under. Spring under is a little better because it's arched more, but with spring under, you lose your ability to have varying loads, which is really what the leaf springs
does best.
Are so good at. Like I have 2 colossal load leafs on it too. So that's going to really impact your bottom out feel, because you smack into the load leafs on a leaf spring and your spring rate is ramping. Like I have no idea how much, but I can feel it and it's a lot.
Yeah. It just basically goes on a flat iron bar at that point.
Yeah. And
the springs aren't moving anymore.
Yeah. And the problem is like if it's a multi-use vehicle, you really have to have that, because like, let's say I'm towing 10,000 pounds or 11,000, whatever it's rated for, and you have 10% as your tongue weight. So you have 1,000 pounds of tongue weight, and then you might be a little cheeky and also have some stuff in the bed too. Yep. So you can have 1,500 pounds back there. You have to have overload leafs. And at that point, the frame flex is doing a lot of your suspension for
exactly.
Which is a little scary, but it's fine. So it's for those. And I also tell people if they're going to be towing with their vehicle, or say you have a higher center of gravity height or something like that, a bypass doesn't really make sense for that application at all. And it's going to be a little trickier to tune, especially the high COG vehicles. Like if you have an overlander who has a camper or something like that, and you have a bypass with bypass tubes, you can reach a point at which just around turns, you're opening the bypass tubes.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah, we've witnessed that. I've driven trucks like that. So, and that's not good.
It induces body roll, and then it also isn't metering the body roll correctly. So it will tend to kind of like bounce back and forth a tiny bit, which can be really scary because you're transitioning weight onto the tires in a way that you can't always predict. So you're kind of like losing and gaining traction, and your pound per square inch impact on the road is different. So like driving out to the desert, the Narrows, if you have bypasses on the back and you have a giant camper, it can be pretty frightening.
Yeah, we've done that, and it's not good. And what you're basically feeling is the shock is free floating through the bypass, where if you were driving in a straight line going up and down, that's a good thing. But now that it's trying to control body roll, it's not designed to do that. The rod speed input is less, and it just floats through whatever that inch of movement, and the whole top of the truck is going back and forth over the wheel centers, which was scary.
Sounds like you're talking about a racing bypass shock on the back of a full-size truck.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And it's more common than you would believe.
Yes, it is.
It's like you have 2 cups of water, and one is ride quality and one is handling.
Right.
And you can pour one into the other, but it takes a
Still
lot of work
of water
to add water to the system.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're taking from something to give it to another.
Yeah.
It's not always like 1-to-1 too, of course. You can increase both significantly with some valving tricks and a lot of stuff that I've learned, like the 60 millimeter digressive high flow piston is the only production piston I know of that has directional bleed built in. And so there's a shim on the bottom side of the piston with a spring backing it, which allows it so that you have bleed shims on both sides of the piston. And it occludes the orifices on one side. So say if you have like a 10 square millimeter shim and a 4.5 square millimeter shim on compression, you're getting very close to 14.5 square millimeters of bleed. Although I believe it's not exactly, because if you look at how the ports are oriented, I think that the hydraulic oil is pushing down on the face shim a little bit and trying to occlude that port slightly, from what I remember.
Lots of math.
Yeah, there's some math going on. But then on rebound, you can have only 4.5 millimeters square of bleed, which is really a huge benefit because rebound force is like 3 times what compression force is on average.
Typically 3 to 1. Yep.
And so you'd imagine that it's possible that you're going to need 3 times less bleed because you have 3 times more force on that end.
Just on the main.
So I think that's one of the huge benefits of the 8112 system is that you can have huge amounts of bleed on compression and like fairly light digressive-ish valving. And that kind of blows off and you're engaging into the other zones rather quickly. Yep. And so it's trying to give you a compromise of ride quality and handling while still having the best of both is the way I interpret it.
Comfort and control is Dennis's goal on everything we make. So that's a razor's edge. You know, basically walking that razor's edge of comfort and control is where we try to put everything. Even this product, you know, that's considered very close to off-road racing performance style. That's Bilstein's edict whenever we build a shock is to make it do exactly that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's been interesting to tune it too. I've like over the past 6 or 7 years, I've learned a lot about it. I used to just take the digressive piston out. I'd put a 9200 series piston and everything just because that's what I've always done.
Go back to linear.
I'm more comfortable with it, and there's some advantages to that for sure. But lately I've been kind of like, I'll modify it, and I've grown to appreciate the directional bleed capabilities more than anything.
Oh, yeah.
And that you don't have to drill holes in the piston to change bleed. I can literally just swap a shim, or I can swap the preload discs or whatever, and it's really easy to create a ton of control out of it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's a little trickier to dial in just right. There's more, as a shock tuner, there's more room for error in like the 9200 series linear piston, I would say, which I think is why people like immediately want to steer towards it.
That's a whole different podcast we need to have you down for. That linear digressive argument. Gosh, we've talked about it a lot here.
The problem is that you're distilling suspension theory down to a word.
Yeah.
And what you're not focusing on is if it's actually tuned for the vehicle.
Well, you can use a digressive piston and make it act linear, and you can use a linear piston and make it act. So, yeah, you're right. It's linguistics.
There are other brands. Let's say there are brands that say, oh, we only use progressive valving, and yet I take them apart, and on the rebound side, I find that they have a spacer that applies preload to the rebound shims in first-gen Tacoma applications. Or on F250s, I find that they have a specific piston that it looks identical, but has much smaller holes, and it has an indent cut out for a preload shim. So then they're saying, oh, this brand is better because it has this valving theory, but even that brand doesn't have that valving theory.
Exactly.
So I think that the problem is that valving is seen as like black magic. And so as a customer, if you don't want to get like real deep into it, you can just say like X is better because of this.
Right.
Instead of having any nuance about it.
Oversimplify it.
Yeah. And it's just more
flow.
It's more accessible to customers to say, I like linear valving. And you're like, I've stopped arguing.
Yeah, well, it goes back to understanding the two and what works best for. I mean, they each have their purpose in the world, right? It's just by the time you explain that to a customer, you're done. I mean, you're exhausted.
Well, this is a much different use case with Bilstein because we're an OEM supplier.
Exactly.
We're dealing with engineers.
But in this realm here, I mean, he probably gets a lot of pushback on the linear versus digressive.
A digressive piston is just more tunable for overall.
If you know what you're doing.
If you know what you're doing, but you... Like an OE demands that. That's where the digressive piston came from.
Well, that's the only way you can get the right quality. We need a shock
to be able to do all of these things. Control, loose shake, not be harsh. be controlled in a corner, all these things, and they've developed this digressive valving. And
isn't a lot of it the wheel lift test too that all the OEs have to pass, where it's like it's a cone course and you have to like jerk the wheel?
Yeah,
and
it's
telemetry on it
to tune at that OE level. I mean, there's so many things that play into.
They're doing a lot of chassis dynamics.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of vehicle shake and shimmy and things like that you can tune out with a shock. Like,
well, not to mention just the comfort side of things.
Like literally the seat shaking versus not.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
You know, in parts of the car shaking inside, you can do a tune and get the seat to stop shaking.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot to it with the digressive. I mean, I love linear pistons. I go to OCTOLs like everybody else around here.
Yep.
I want to go bomb around, and I love our linear piston. But when you try to like tune a vehicle where you've got all these different things going on the street,
right,
it's tough.
And that's where we always end up is, you know, in this argument. And again, we should probably address it in a completely different podcast. We know that it's part of shock tuning, but there's a purpose for each, and each can be highly modified to work like the other if you know what you're doing, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So you can pretty much build it.
Now, weren't we talking about how to adjust these things?
Oh, yeah.
Get back to that.
I just want to say one thing. Yeah. We should take the digressive piston and the linear piston and put them on the dyno and try and get them to match.
We can.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
We've done it.
It's pretty close.
Easily can.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that has been done.
Yeah.
But he pretty much covered the adjustment. I mean, we kind of got...
I didn't even talk about high speed.
Yeah, we kind of got hung up
Or
here
low speed.
on the blue and gold adjustments, but
We didn't get too far into these things.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's talk about the DSA.
Well,
Yeah.
just quickly. So let's just say I come to you and I have these shocks on my truck. We, like you said, JCO is last, and there's a certain complaint that I have. Let's make one up. What's the truck doing where a high and low speed adjustment would be required? Let's see, you want to go faster down a dirt road with bumps in it, and that you feel like the truck, again, need cameras to figure it out, but you feel like the truck doesn't have enough compression in it. So what would be a typical adjustment? Like the truck is bottoming out, the customer's saying the truck's bottoming out.
Yeah, truck is bottoming out is really common. And like first thing I rule out is like, does it have nitrogen? Does it have oil? I don't tune shocks that need rebuilt. Right. That's my biggest pet peeve is that people come out and they book a really expensive tune day with me and their stuff is leaking, or they're like, oh, it was rebuilt like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And I find that it's just full of air because
There's no oil in it.
Yeah, you're fundamentally changing the damping characteristics of it. If it doesn't have oil in it, which I don't know.
So check your shocks before you bring them out for tuning.
I'll just leave that alone.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah, so with these, it's really critical to make incremental changes.
Right. Small changes.
Because they do so much adjustment. So we're only doing a couple clicks at a time. But let's say someone's saying like, oh, I'm going 20 miles an hour down a dirt section, but there's quite a large rock in there. And when I hit it, the entire vehicle just lifts immediately. And it feels like it doesn't soak it up at all. So I might take some footage of it, but if it's true that the suspension is not compressing fast enough, that might be something where you take the high-speed compression adjuster and you turn it back, even though you're only driving at 20 miles an hour, but you've reached such a velocity that you're into the high-speed adjuster range.
Right, violently hitting that wheel at 20 miles an hour.
Even though it's only moving maybe half of its travel. It's pegging that high-speed compression.
Yeah, and it's essentially like slamming into that valving.
So they say it's bottoming out, and typically a customer that feels that wants to add high-speed compression, but in essence, they need to go backwards and reduce the high-speed compression because it's slamming into the valving.
Yeah, and the opposite can also be true, where it is bottoming out and you're adding in high-speed compression. I think as shock tuners, you can always just add in more valving and then just tell people they aren't driving fast enough. It's always an option.
Exactly what I would do.
Yeah. It's always an option.
At least you're safe there, right?
Yeah. You're like, well, I don't know. I thought you were cool. So, but I guess if we're driving slow, then whatever. And I see that quite a bit where I'll have them come in and they have like double stack 15s on both sides of the piston or something. I'm like, whoa, this guy put fender washers in here. That's crazy.
These don't move at all.
Yeah, this guy went on McMaster Car and just said, get me some washers. Wild. But yeah, and so the alternate can be true where say you're going 60 miles an hour and let's say you are going over that washboard section and you're like, this is quite rough and I feel like I'm not getting enough wheel speed out of it. So you might be going 50, 60 miles an hour, say, but that could be a situation where it's actually engaging part of the low speed adjuster as well. Because although I hate washboards so much, and razor burn is actually even worse and almost impossible.
Way worse.
Yeah, yeah.
And the problem is the same exact thing that controls razor burn is also what makes your vehicle drivable on the road.
Yep.
So you can tune a suspension that scoots over razor burn, which is like in between washboard and whoops.
Should we explain razor burn real quick?
Is it so? Here's my theory on razor burn, and let's see if I'm correct because I haven't ran this by anyone. I believe it's partially the CVT transmission has slop in it, and everyone gets a razor and doesn't air down their tires, and they're gaining and losing traction the whole time, and their tires are such a specific size on those vehicles that they're creating a mini whoop section.
It's exactly what it is in my mind.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So do you think the wheel, one side is turning different speeds than the other?
I don't know.
I don't know how they get.
You think
to be
that's why they
offset.
make the whoops angled like that?
Well, they're not.
They're not
on.
straight.
They're like.
So to clarify what Ian just said, the reason we call it razor burn is it's created by UTVs, which are, the word would be a razor, right?
Yes.
And
Could
then
be a Can-Am, maybe.
it's basically based on the wheel speed, the wheel size, and the travel, which is making the bumps, which they're annoying.
No, they're undrivable.
It didn't used to exist.
Did not exist.
It didn't exist before.
Yeah.
And so I've actually had to change how I tune if someone primarily goes in OHV areas. So literally someone could say, oh, I normally do like OCTOL stuff. And I'm like, okay, and I'll tune it one way. But if they say, I normally do Anza-Borrego stuff, which is technically the same area, but Anza-Borrego is a non-OHV area, and it does not have razor burn.
Just the stutter bumps.
Yeah. So it's going to fundamentally affect the way that I'm going to try and tune the damper. But also there's very little that can be done for razor burn or very, very large washboard that doesn't compromise the drivability of the vehicle.
Yeah.
You can essentially air down and speed up.
Yep.
And
float.
That's going to be your best option as far as I can tell. But some of that I could imagine could be set by the low speed compression adjuster, or depending on the actual frequency and how fast the shaft is moving and maybe the overall movement of the shaft. You could also play with the high speed as well.
Yep.
I think it really also depends on the vehicle too. And if you're at a motion ratio versus if you're 1-to-1, that's going to change in essence what low speed and high speed are adjusting as well. Is another way that I like to think about it, because you're changing the amount of shaft travel and stuff. And I'm sure you guys valve it differently for those applications too.
Yeah. So basically, I mean, as an end user, there's a few little clues here as to what these do, how many clicks, things like that. And as BILSTEIN Engineering gives us a spec, we test every single click with every single knob, so we know everything works properly, matches our factory dyno graphs. Then the dyno engineer sets it back to where engineering says that's the best, tests it one more time, seals it up in the box. But Ian's given us some great insight into kind of tuning in different features of the 8112s. I mean, I know it sounds complicated, but if you follow exactly what he said, which is make small adjustments, drive it in between, kind of figure out what it is that you're trying to tune out, and tune the JCO last, I think you're going to have great success tuning these. And typically, you're only going to really have to start turning the knobs aggressively if the vehicle's modified way out of stock.
Yeah, and I think I have a lot of vehicles come in where, not these ones specifically, but other vehicles with knobs, where all the knobs are fully closed. And that is the surest sign that your shocks just need rebuilt.
Yeah.
Because I think that as you start to lose performance and damping capability out of it, you're adding it back in with the adjusters. Sure. So I can't, like, pretty much every shock I have in the shop that has adjusters that needs rebuilt, it's fully bottomed out. And I'll reset them back to whatever 3 clicks in or whatever the manufacturer specs at that point.
There was a brand back in the day that actually made a shock that had an adjuster on it, but it was designed to put valving back in the shock as it wore out.
Yeah.
And it was, it was one of these click things, and you would loosen the bottom bolt, turn the shock one click. After 40,000 miles, turn the shock one click, and essentially just tried to refresh it. But in the end, for safety, that's a super great point. I mean, keep your stuff, rebuilt properly. Like even the 8112s. I mean, we don't put a mileage spec on them. They're designed to go farther, faster, bigger, stronger than our competitors, but they still need to be checked by a professional.
Yeah.
I would say at least once a year is probably a good idea. That doesn't need to be rebuilt, but it just at least inspected to make sure there's no leaks, make sure that there's nothing going on with them. This is expensive stuff, and you're trusting your life to it, right? So definitely make sure to have it inspected.
Now, do you have, or do you recommend, or do you find people have a different setting they use when they're going off-roading versus on-road?
Yeah, so with the solid axle stuff, what I will do that is not correct, but works, is you can turn the low-speed adjuster all the way in, and it acts as a sway bar. Because a sway bar is really hard to package in the front of a vehicle with a frame that you've done a 3-link on. Because you have the steering box swinging, and then you have the axle and tires moving. And I've seen like 3 people package a sway bar on a solid axle swap vehicle, and it's insane looking. One is like it did a 90, but then it was also cut out for part of the steering linkage.
To go through.
And there's also at that point, there's so much deflection in it that you're not really eliminating the initial body roll, because you're just allowing the arm to deflect over. And then you're really just kind of reducing articulation. So it's like you're getting the worst of both worlds. But what you can do is just crank the low speed in and act as a sway bar, which is incorrect. The shock shouldn't do that.
Yeah, that shouldn't be its job.
It can.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't.
But you're cranking the low speed in.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you crank it all the way in, it really reduces body roll quite a bit, which maybe isn't the most efficient way to control it, but
it's a possibility.
This is a pretty, this is a highly modified vehicle.
Yeah,
and you're probably not going to see a lot of street miles. Or
you're talking about a solid axle swap.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all the solid axle swap vehicles I built end up being daily drivers.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Despite me asking.
That says a lot.
That's tough to tune for sure.
It is tricky. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you have to think about with that.
So, yeah, without a sway bar, you can adjust the shocks and essentially gain back some control.
Yeah, and I mean, there would probably be, if you asked for it, he could probably give you a setting that says, okay, based on how you drive this vehicle and where you drive it, here's your off-road best scenario, and here's your on-road best scenario.
Yeah.
It'd just be a couple little clicks here and there to dial it in, but it certainly would be vehicle-specific. He couldn't say, for every vehicle, do this when you're on the road and this when you're off the road. It's going to definitely take someone driving the car, riding around in it, making sure that this is really true.
And I think it's counterintuitive, but I do typically say that, like, I hate to make generalities because then I'm going to think of 10 times that this isn't the case, but generally you're going to want to adjust the knobs in when you go off-road. You're going to air down and increase valving.
Makes sense. Yeah.
That's just generally what I find. But then I'm sure I could also think of situations where that's also not true.
Yeah, some of the rock crawlers and things like that.
And if you struggle with shaft speed or stuff like that, or I don't know. But again, you can also control some of the like on-road handling type stuff, or you're mainly taking, like, if you have a truck, like the one in my shop right now is 14 inches travel in the front, 25 in the rear. And the guy daily drives it and like picks it up from school and stuff. And so when it's on the road, we just have low speed adjusters fully turned in, because there's no way to package a sway bar on it, and the only way to get enough shaft speed out of it that it's quick enough over whoops and stuff like that is that you have to make it soft. And it has to engage the valving very quickly. So it's a tricky thing, but overall the adjusters they literally cut my workload probably by like 60%. At least.
Yeah, because you're not taking the shock apart necessarily every time.
And I can qualify directional changes too. So I always say it's more important to be directionally correct than it is to actually nail the adjustment.
Do I need to make this firmer or softer? Which path do I need to go? And then if the adjusters are getting you in the right direction, and you actually have to take it apart to make a big change, at least you know you went the right direction.
It's just so tricky sometimes because too little or too much valving can feel very similar in the cab, I find. And maybe that just comes with experience, but it's just...
That's why I really like the use of cameras to actually see what the vehicle's doing when you have those really baffling cases.
I mean, like bouncing off the spring, and it's just harsh and it feels like there's too much, but you're really just bouncing off the spring.
Yeah, it's the slow-mo footage really helps. Even on my phone, I can shoot it at like 60 frames per second, and I can like sit there and I'll just do it like frame by frame, and I'm like, whoa,
look at that.
That thing.
It didn't feel like that in the truck.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, fender well's almost gone.
Yeah.
I found that it was a kind of a struggle when we first came out with the DSA and doing the tuning, because we didn't have a DSA, and 5100s aren't adjustable, 6112s aren't adjustable.
So you didn't have that directionality. Yeah.
We're dealing with, like, most of the time, at least up to that point, we're taking the shock apart. So if we're going through a thing, we're bottoming out and we want a little more, okay, well, we got to take it apart. So with the DSA, it's like, there's like some, let's just say there's some features around here that we might go hit close by. And it's like, okay, well, it rides really good, but you go over this ditch and, you know, it could be better. Well, we don't need to take it apart now. Yeah. We just crank 2 turns in.
Yeah, and that's what he was saying about direction is, you know, you can try a little bit firmer, you can try a little bit softer and see which one cures what's going on if you don't have a camera, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Watching the sweep in the dyno too is so impressive as far as like fully close to fully open. The amount of difference in force you see is pretty wild. Yeah,
we had a group come through and we actually ran these on the dyno for them, which we always do for our tours. And I was still amazed to watch, you know, everything open, everything closed, and to see that big gap, you know, between the 2 dyno lines was just, it's like, oh yeah, there's definitely some adjustment there.
Yeah, it's interesting too. And I know, like, to be fair, adjusters can have some issues too.
Yeah.
Like, you can cause some, ironically, even though originally, like I was saying, it was the anti-cavitation valve, like, if you have the adjustment all the way in, it is also possible for that to cavitate too. And there's some other stuff, but generally it's like 99.99% good.
Yeah, better, easier.
Even if you never touch it. I always say that. Like, even if you never touch it, there's a lot of value in it. Just having that additional valving that's in the reservoir, it's easier to cool, blah, blah, blah. Everything about it is really quite good.
All right. Well, we're getting the high sign here that we need to wrap things up. We could talk about this forever. You know how us guys are. But I want to give you a second or two just to let people know your website or a way they can contact you in case they want to get their shocks tuned or anything like that, and then we'll wrap it up. So go ahead.
Yeah, I do a lot of tuning. I support all BILSTEIN products, 8125s, 9200s, all 8100 series. Anything that can be taken apart, I take apart, and I can custom tune if you have a different application. And my email is shockdoc, SHOCKDOC, @wheeleveryweekend.com. Or you can just look up Wheel Every Weekend and it'll pop up. And I'd be happy to help anyone out if they have any questions or concerns about the product line at all. And I'm fairly comfortable with it. There's a lot of stuff I don't know, but everybody has been really just great to work with, able to help me out with everything. So if I don't know the answer, I can always find it out. And I'll tell you if I don't. So I'm totally upfront about that. But I do shock tuning, rebuilds, Cerakoting. I have my own Cerakote oven. I do same-day turnarounds for racers, as long as they're not annoying about it. Within reason. Yeah, exactly. I can't do it in 2 hours, and I'm located in San Diego County. Yep. I'm about an hour from here in San Diego. I moved my shop onto my property. I have 10 acres in Julian. So I'm like 30 minutes from Ocotillo Wells. I tune Ocotillo Wells, Johnson Valley, Barstow. I'll go out to Sand Hollow. I love Sand Hollow. So that's about as far as I'll go out. And I have a couple shot classes coming up. They're going to be at Bent Motorsports. I have another one that's going to be at Tiny Rig Co. And then I'm doing a shot class in Moab in the next couple months as well. So I'll try and post about that. And I try and just give people a general overview. My big thing is education. And I know this is kind of like it's a very in-depth random subject, but I think that there's a base level of knowledge that you can gain about it that just really helps you with purchasing. Definitely. So that's pretty much what I got. I really appreciate you guys having me on again.
Oh, we couldn't have done this episode without you. In fact, we kind of built this whole thing waiting for you to find a day to come down to visit us when you're not buried taking apart shocks. Yeah. We thank you so much for your time today and your support of our brand and your constant helping us improve, basically, by teaching us how you're doing your work out there in the fields and how we can make your job easier as a tuner and make our customers happier in the end. That's our end goal. So thanks again for joining us on Shock Talk today. Joseph, thank you for stopping by. Shane, it's always great to have you. Garrett, Chelsea, we love you all. We'll see you next episode. Thank you.